In what was one of the most entertaining rounds of football I've ever witnessed, the most remarkable result was Switzerland beating the clear favourites France. It was an incredible comeback, making it 3-all in the 90th minute, and we witnessed one of the biggest shock exits of the tournament so far. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how Switzerland overcame France in the Euro 2020 last 16. World champions France were eliminated from the Euros after Kylian Mbappe missed from the penalty spot. Didier Deschamps' team recovered from a losing position to go 3-1 up, thanks to fine finishes by Karim Benzema and Paul Pogba. But late goals by Seferovic and Gavranovic took the game to extra time. Now, before we look at how the game panned out, I just want to take a quick second to thank my first ever sponsor, OneFootball. OneFootball is hands down the best app for any updates in football, from starting lineups to top goal scorers, statistics, transfers, or any news in the footballing world. OneFootball will cover it. Plus, the new dedicated Euro 2020 page makes it incredibly simple to follow your favourite country and get any updates on key players or injuries ahead of a big match. OneFootball is the best app during a match as it gives you live statistical updates to help you better understand how the game is being played. And the best part of it all is that it's completely free. So if you think it's something you might enjoy, click the link in the description down below to get going. Thank you to OneFootball, and let's take a look at the starting lineups and what this meant for both teams. Switzerland looked to mirror France's lineup, and both teams started with a 3-4-1-2. Didier Deschamps' decision to play with a back three, with Lenglet in the centre and Adrien Rabiot as the left wing-back, proved to be a costly decision, given the Barcelona defender being overpowered in the air by Seferovic to make it 1-0 to Switzerland. However, Deschamps soon realised the error of his ways, and started the second half with a much more attacking lineup. Firstly, Lenglet was replaced by Coman, and the team shifted into a more natural 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 if Mbappe played behind Benzema. From here, Rabiot was a lot more comfortable as a left-back rather than a wing-back, and France soon turned the game on its head with 2 goals in quick succession. But Switzerland never stopped going for what they knew best, and their 3-4-1-2 proved to be the right formation. When out of possession, it would shift into a 5-2-3 mid-block structure, something which France had a lot of difficulty breaking down given their very defensive formation in the first half. However, the switch to the 4-4-2 did cause issues for Switzerland when defending. Coman and Griezmann moved closer infield to add more support for Benzema and Mbappe, and to also help unsettle Switzerland's low block. And this did prove to be successful, as France were able to turn the game on its head and suddenly found themselves 2-1 up. However, after the game had settled, Coman and Griezmann once again shifted into the wide channels, and Switzerland started to cause a lot of issues for France when in possession, specifically in areas between the wide and central midfielders, with key passes going through the middle for both their second and third goals. The best player on the pitch was Switzerland's Granit Xhaka. He was key both during attack and defence, with a 92% pass accuracy, completing the most forward passes and a late assist to take the game to extra time. He dominated inner midfield with Pogba and Kante, and was one of the standout performances of the Euros so far. Now, let's take a look at how both teams look to attack when in possession. With France in possession, they would look to build up from the back line, and move the ball out wide to either Rabiot or Pavard. And Switzerland were comfortable with the ball in these positions, as their 5-2-3 defensive block meant they were able to cope with France's attempted overloads in this area of the pitch. In fact, during the first half, France struggled to create any substantial gaps in behind Switzerland, given mostly by the fact that having 5 defensive players, with Pogba or Kante dropping deep to receive the ball, meant France had few options up top to bypass the Swiss midfield. The narrow front three would stop any central access, and the double pivot would stick tight to Griezmann, who would drop deep alongside either Pogba or Kante to try and create any overloads. Given that there was no space down the middle, the front two of Benzema and Mbappe would also try and move out wide to link up with the wingbacks, and force Switzerland to move into a deeper defensive block. But once again, by doing this, France would leave the middle of the pitch completely vacant, and there was little end product to all their build-up. One final thing to note from the first half is France's insistence on moving down the left flank. In fact, they attacked 44% of the time down this area. Rabiot would push up, and with Pogba, Griezmann, Mbappe and Benzema all preferring this flank, France would quickly try and outnumber the Swiss defence. However, this proved unsuccessful, and Switzerland were able to defend effectively, and also use the completely vacant right wing to their advantage. And as we can see, Switzerland attacked 45% down their left flank. This is clearly visible in both teams' heat maps. France has an excess of players in the left channel, while Switzerland looked to perfectly mirror this on the other side of the pitch. At the start of the second half, Didier Deschamps realised he had to make some changes to get around the Swiss central block. And the idea of bringing on Kingsley Coman for Lenglet seemed to be a fantastic decision at first. With Coman on the pitch, the formation morphed into more of a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1. Coman on the left meant Rabiot was not needed to overlap as often, and was more effective in a more defensive role, while also meaning Griezmann would be used further up on the right wing to try and balance out the attack. Initially, Coman and Griezmann added central numbers, playing close to Mbappe and Benzema to get on the end of any knockdowns or to play them in behind. And with this, France were able to get into the lead. This central overload was clearly evident in France's second goal, with Coman, Griezmann, Mbappe and Benzema all being in the box and combining with some excellent close quarter passes. However, as the game developed, Coman and Griezmann started to play in wider positions to stretch the back line, allowing Pogba to add numbers in the box. While these changes did make France a lot more dangerous on the attack, it did leave them relatively exposed defensively. And now let's take a look at how Switzerland were able to expose these holes going forward. What impressed me the most about Switzerland is the way they stuck to their game plan for the whole 90 minutes, and didn't panic when they were behind. When building up, as we saw earlier, moved mostly down the left flank. France had a very similar defensive structure to their own in the first half, mostly a 5-3-2, with Griezmann and Benzema being the first to press the back line. But given that they were only pressing with a front two, it meant Switzerland could commit more players on the attack, as they were not as reliant on having a back three when building up. Given this, the wingback Zuber would often move into the half space, freeing up the flank for Rodriguez to provide width on the attack, meaning Seferovic, Embolo and Shaqiri could add numbers in the middle. With the Swiss committing one of their centre-backs on the attack, we saw the excellent display from Xhaka, who would cover the left channel in case France were to counter. Given this constant overlap and movement on the left, it meant Shaqiri would be the key player to link up play on the right flank, and would help support the deep runs by Widmer. With this excellent movement around the midfield, it meant the two forwards of Seferovic and Embolo would be a constant threat down the middle, and played in a very advanced position, with at least one always on the back line. The constant threat in the box, alongside the width from Zuber and Rodriguez, was the key for Switzerland's first goal, who suddenly had the upper hand on the world champions. On the full attack, their formation would often resemble a 3-3-4 or 3-2-5, with a very wide attacking line to stretch the French defence. So, as we saw earlier, Switzerland struggled to cope with France's switch to a 4-4-2 in the second half. However, Switzerland's resilience to stick to their game plan was clearly visible in the last few moments of the game. With France switching from a back 5 to a back 4, Switzerland were able to exploit these gaps between the two centre mids and the wingers, with the substitutions in Gravanovic, Pastnak and Vargas all finding space behind the midfield line. Both goals were created thanks to excellent movement behind the midfield, and Switzerland took their chances to take the game to extra time. During extra time, big chances fell for both teams, the biggest of which was for Kylian Mbappe, after a phenomenal through ball from Paul Pogba. However, with no one being able to put their country ahead, the game went on to penalties, with Switzerland making it through to the next round. However, it doesn't get any easier for Switzerland, who will be playing Spain in the quarterfinals of the Euros, who certainly will have been handed a big confidence boost now France are no longer in the competition. And now let me know what you think. What did you make of Switzerland's performance, and who do you think will be crowned European champions? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, along with any suggestions for future videos. And if you enjoyed this content, please leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.